All right, good evening and welcome to the Thursday, August 26, 2021 regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Xenia. At this time, I will ask everyone to please rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Cody Branham.
Would you pray with me, please? Our God, we pause and we acknowledge that you are sovereign and you are good and that you are working all things together to accomplish your good and glorious will. And Father, tonight, before we have this meeting and deliberate issues here in Xenia, we pause and we pray that you might give those in our government great wisdom, our president, vice president, and his advisors, and our military. God, we pray for your mercy on families that are grieving. Father God, in some ways, what's happening here in Xenia may seem insignificant, but Father, it's not, because you care about all of it. Father, I pray your blessing on this meeting tonight, and I pray that you would enable our city leaders and those who influence in our city to be doing things that make our city a better place to live, a better place for families to thrive, a better place for students to be educated, a better place for people to receive jobs and receive a secondary and further education. Father, I pray that decisions might be made that allow our citizens to live in safety and peace with one another. And so, Father, we know that you are understanding the things on a global level tonight, but we also know that those who are in positions of influence and authority are accountable to you. And so might you give them wisdom to lead well. In the name of Jesus we pray these things. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Holloway. Thank you, Councilman Branham. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Here.
Councilwoman Dean?
Here.
Councilman Branham?
Here.
Councilman Urschel?
Here.
Mayor Mays?
Here.
President Smith?
Present. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes from the August 12th, 2021 regular meeting. At this time, I will ask for a motion to accept the minutes, please.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilman Scrivens. Any corrections or additions, comments made to the minutes at this time?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
just one on council comments, where it says my council comments, said that there are 2 park streets, TO should be TWO.
Oh, okay, the typo. All right, so noted.
Thank you, sir.
Any other additions or corrections? Seeing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Vice President Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Abstain.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Urschel?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. We have no special presentation scheduled for tonight's regular meeting. Next opportunity is audience comments. At this time, anyone in the audience who would like to address City Council, may come to the podium at this time. If you could, please limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes, and give us your name and address for the record.
John Kelp, 936 Oval Way.
You're going to be taking action on 4 articles to basically change the city charter tonight. I'll go back to my original comment that I think you're biting off more than you can chew. It's all right if you're a gambling person, I guess, but I would consider that if you put all 4 of those on the ballot at one time, I don't know how many people are going to read all 4 of those. So my guess is they're all going to go in there and they're going to say yes, 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 or they're going to say no, 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 no to all of them. So I would highly recommend that if you want to pass any of those, that you maybe take them in smaller chunks than putting all 4 of those on the ballot at one time. The other thing I would like to bring up, obviously right now, the federal government and the state government's putting a lot of pressure on municipalities, county organizations, healthcare organizations, long-term care facilities, withholding Medicare and Medicaid funds if their employees do not get vaccinated. I think the Biden administration is setting our long-term care facilities up for a major employment crisis if they go through with what they're going to say. Even if 15% of their workers walk off the job, they have a major problem. But we have 4 candidates on the ballot that are sitting up here tonight. My question to you would be, tonight, yes or no, would you support a vaccine mandate for any city workers? Because it's going to come. It's going to come from the federal government or state government, and they're going to say police and fire should be vaccinated or you're not going to get funds for this project or that project. So my question to the 4 candidates that are on the ballot, would you support a vaccine mandate, yes or no? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else care to come to the podium, address City Council at this time?
Hello, my name's Lloyd Dafford. How y'all doing? I'm just here for a real quick thing. On the 8th of July, y'all had a city council meeting. All y'all took out of it, they were talking about Lexington Park, correct? Thank you for giving that community their one portage on. The thing that you failed to mention, and Mr. Smith, this is addressed to you personally. This is the city of hospitality. Well, here, I did the research for you. There was a man who was racially profiled, who's a preacher, who is taking God's word into a place because he came from there. He did better, but the cops still see him 10 years ago when he was selling drugs, not the man that he's trying to change. I did the research. That's what he did. And the reason I'm here is because, Mr. Urshel, you knew that I had hate in my heart. You took me into Chicago, into Chirac, with only God's grace, because they needed to hear it. So where's that man's apology if this is the city of hospitality? I'm sorry. You told me better than that, sir. You did. I did the research.
Thank you.
Thomas Sizemore, 943 East Church Street. Lexington Park. Last time I was here, I was asking for things to be done in Lexington, improvements. Okay. I know with the gardens, a lot of people come in to see them sunflowers that was planted. They're like 14 foot, 3.5 foot wide. And there's people from Yellow Springs all over that brought to here, okay, which is great. And little kids getting their pictures taken with them. Parents holding them, you know, there's one about that big up next to them and all that. I didn't plan for all that. I just planned for pollination for the garden, but it was good. That was a plus. But I'd like to see and start concentrating on that part. I go to Shawnee last night to go fishing, and I had to wash my hands and go to the bathroom at 5 o'clock. That's time people get off work, and the bathroom's locked. 5 o'clock in the evening, that's a little bit too early. You know, kind of hot, wasn't a lot of people there, but still, 5 o'clock. Park closes, I believe, around 11, okay? So it should stay open just a little later, by dark. I can understand that. The back to Lexington benches, picnic tables, There's a bench up there, it's been there or a picnic table, it's been up there 3 years. It don't have a lock on it. I looked at all the parks in Xenia, and there's not one park that has a picnic table that ain't got a lock on it, except that park. And it's been there 3 years. It's bad, that's bad. I mean, you don't leave your doors open, I understand that. I don't. Back when I was little, that was something we did. We didn't have to worry about nobody coming in or nothing like that. But I'm not from Xenia, but where I was from, it wasn't like that. And even up where I come from, the parks and Groveport area have no locks on benches. I mean, picnic tables, I mean. They don't even have a grill up there in the shelter areas to cook the grill out. And they've had a lot of events up there in the last month. Book bag giveaway, a bunch of college students had to get together, and they had a memorial, 2-day memorial up there, and no police, no emergency squads, nothing like that. Everything went cool, and I was happy to see that, because they don't need to be, I mean, them people just go up there and have family get-togethers. And then a girl mentioned to me one time up there, said, I feel I'm good in this park because I'm with family. And she looks at the people in the park as family. And I can kind of understand it, because they all get along together, and they all come together with, you know, like the book bag give out. Tuesday, there was supposed to be like a neighborhood appreciation day, and that was good that it didn't happen. But I thought it was supposed to be that day, because, you know, that park needs to have a little time to rest, because it's had a lot of action in the last month. When you see 800 to 1,000 college kids in that park, and the community opened it up so they could park in their driveways, I thought, well, that's a good thing. And Dr. Basically, that's it. 4 minutes, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Seisman. Thank you. Anyone else care to come to the podium at this time?
Good evening. My name's Jerry Farrell, and I'm here because I'm a Greene County resident, and I'm a veteran as well. And I'll get right to the point. I created a Purple Heart sign project. And what it is, I donate Purple Heart signs, this right here, to communities that are willing to put the sign up. And like I say, I donated, I created this project, I self-funded. And so far I've given out probably about, I think, neighborhood of 30 signs. I think I just ordered a batch. But I just came through Jamestown and up in London as well, spoke before the city council there, and they were all very enthusiastic. I offered them one sign, each of them asked for two. And hopefully right here in Greene County, where we have 2 Purple Heart cities, my area where I live, Fairborn, as well as Beaver Creek, Purple Heart cities, along with a military base, which is a Purple Heart base. And I speak here on a very sad day that this country lost 12 service members today. So I'd like to have the opportunity to give you folks, right here in my home area, a Purple Heart sign to put up. Hopefully it would be somewhere in a very relevant area, just see like the courthouse area. So if so, I'll leave this sign with you all here today if you all can make a commitment for that. Is that a possibility?
Well, Mr. City Manager, do you want to address that?
Absolutely, and we can pursue how we can expand that and look at additional.
I'm a little bit hard hearing. I was an artilleryman.
Yeah, then absolutely. First and foremost, I know on behalf of all accounts, we say thank you for your service. This council is very supportive of veterans issues, and we would wholeheartedly embrace that.
And I'd love to give it to you. If you need any more, you let me know. Can I give it to you? Sure. All right.
Big yes. Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Anyone else care to come to the podium at this time? All right. All right, we're going to move on to old business. There is none scheduled for tonight, nor is there a public hearing. Our first item of new business is ordinance 2021-17. Before we proceed with these next 4 ordinances, based on recommendations that I've received from a few of our council members, some members of the Charter Review Committee is that now is not the time to present this to the voters. And I would make a recommendation to take no action on these 4 items tonight. Mayor Mays, do you want to
Sure.
address this?
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. If we did take action, I would be voting no on all 4 of these at this time. I made an effort to reach out and talk to every person on the Charter Commission and the citizens of Xenia who served the better part of 2 years working on this. I had the honor of participating in that as well. So I feel that it's very important that we show the respect to the Charter that it deserves. I want to be careful that we are not politicizing it. And I do think that over the next few months, we have an opportunity to really educate and take time to digest it. I think that if we try to do it right now, people can start voting in about a month or so. And I want people to have time. I'd like for us to have sit-downs. I'd like to invite the public to have some meetings with us, ask questions, be able to go over it. I think that the work that was done is incredibly valuable. Our charter has not been updated in well over 20 years. I mean, that alone, we know verbiage just needs to be updated as well and cleaned up. But I personally came to the conclusion that this is not the time, and I would like to put it off for a little bit. So I'm not obviously saying no to the charter updates that have been worked on, but at this time, I personally would either rather not take action or I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So that means it'd be on like a special, not election, but a special voting session.
It's an option. It's an option. We would have to, evaluate because we would see who else is participating in that and look at shared costs. So there's different options. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Fisher, do you want to speak on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The question was, would this have to be presented as a special election, or how would that be presented at a future?
State law says it can be presented at a special election, but to do so, the city would have to pay for that. What the Ohio Constitution says is you are to introduce it within a time frame before the next general municipal election. There will be a regular municipal election next November, because I believe the governor, the position of governor and some state positions are on the ballot. That counts as a regular municipal election. So we could put it on the ballot in November, and you would not have to pay to do that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Or we could choose portions in the May primary, and we could choose portions in the November election, and we could choose after that as well. So we could either do the entirety or we could do portions. We could make decisions on that, right?
Yeah. You can act on these amendments that were presented up until the time that council has to appoint the next Charter Review Commission.
Which is, what's that date?
It's 5 years.
Okay.
Every 5 years.
Right.
And just for clarification, from a cost standpoint, the city pays for every election. Some that we participate in, there's some shared costs, but the reality is the fewer issues, the fewer participants that go along with the city on the ballot, then the more expensive that election becomes. So there's always a cost, but in a special election where there aren't others on the ballot, it would be much more costly than an election where there's a lot of other participants.
I understand.
Thank you, Ryan. I did not explain that well.
So everyone understands it's not the material that we are not wanting to present, it's just the timing at this time. It's felt like it's not the best time. All right. We're going to move on to item 5, which is Resolution 2021, letter GG. This is an introduction. This is accepting the amounts and tax rates as certified by the Greene County Budget Commission for 2022. This is authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying those tax levies to the Greene County Auditor. Mr. Finance Director, would you like to explain?
Yes, thank you, Council President. Each year, City Council is required by the ORC to certify and approve the rates that are determined by the Greene County Auditor. The resolution has to be provided to the County Auditor by October 1st of this year, And the rates that were certified to us, the property taxes total $1,932,036. That is an increase of $104,036 as compared to what was certified for this year. And then the estimate calculated for local government funds is $693,247.03. And that is actually $66,502.97 less than what was certified as an estimate last year. So we see around $100,000 increase in property tax revenue and a decrease of $66,000 in the shared local government revenue. We would request that council will introduce the resolution tonight accepting the rates.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for the finance director? Seeing none, anyone care to introduce?
I'll introduce that.
Introduced by the mayor. Next item is administrative motion authorizing the purchase of various software modules from BS&A Software. Mr. Duke, would you care to explain?
Thank you, Council President. We've had several conversations with council over the last couple of years about a need to replace many of our financial systems. The last time that council approved a complete overhaul of those financial systems was in December of 2005. We still have many of our systems that are operating on that same exact software that was approved 15 or 16 years ago. Specifically our utility billing, our cash receipt systems, our asset management systems, all of those are on very antiquated software that is no longer supported by that vendor, which is creating a whole number of issues for our IT department as well as our finance department as we try to use that software. Many of our other systems are also a bit outdated and in need of improvement, an upgrade. And several of the modules here, what we're requesting: human resources, payroll, general ledger, accounts payable, cash receipting, accounts receivable, fixed assets, purchase order, utility billing, and BS&A Online, which is a portal for customers to view a lot of their information. Some of those pieces we don't really even have today. So things like our accounts receivable, we have no other module outside of utility billing that tracks receivables, and utility billing does not track miscellaneous receivables. So many of our receivables are literally in a binder, a folder, where we are tracking manually a lot of those things, or using Access or Excel, some other systems to try to track a lot of those receivables, but we don't have an actual software that helps us to manage all those different receivables. And there are a significant number of miscellaneous things that we have as receivables that we're trying to track through those manual processes. A lot of other things that we're using Access and other spreadsheets to do, such as budgeting and CIP, our budget system, our capital planning system, those are Access databases that would be replaced by this new software, a much more reliable, up-to-date and versatile software than what we're using for budgeting and capital planning today. The total cost of these systems for implementation, the licensing, the training, and so on for the initial setup is $246,564. To give you some context, back in 2005, we paid $250,000 for that software. So this is actually a little less than what we paid back in 2005 for the systems. But there is an annual maintenance cost that comes with this particular system. That's estimated to be $76,195 annually. Currently, we pay $43,319 annually for our current system. So there is an increase in the annual maintenance cost. Now, I will say, again, we're getting additional modules that we don't have today. And also included in that maintenance cost is a hosting fee. And that's one of the real benefits of this new system, is that it will be hosted remotely. We will be able to access it from anywhere, as will our employees who are out in the field. So it will be a much more versatile product where people will be able to access it from tablets and phones. If there's work orders that are generated and created, we can push those things out to the field, whereas now as it's hosted on our server, the systems just don't have that capacity to do that efficiently. So while the maintenance costs are higher, in part some of that is because it's being hosted. It's hosted by Microsoft Azure, That's a product or a system that holds databases all over the world, and they're one of the largest providers. Microsoft and Amazon are the two leaders as it pertains to this. So there's tremendous security, there's tremendous redundancy, and much improved access in moving to these new systems. The costs are split across many funds, and in the agenda item, the way that that's split is detailed in the agenda item. Obviously, this system supports water, sewer, sanitation, police, fire, our general fund, all of those different pieces. And so the cost of the system, both the initial costs and setup, as well as the maintenance, is spread across many of those funds for which the software is being utilized. I think that's a quick overview of the software, and what we're requesting here this evening is the authorization to go ahead and execute a contract with BSNA for the software, including the implementation, the setup, the hosting fees, as well as the annual support that would ensue after that. There is a cap on the maintenance fees into the future, so it can't raise at a rate that's higher than the consumer price index. So there are some caps in the way that those maintenance fees can increase moving forward. And I'd be happy to try to answer any other questions you may have about the request.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the finance director before I make a motion? Yes, Mr. Scrivens.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Finance Director, what type of security is built into the system against malware, ransomware, et cetera?
Well, it's significant because it's not hosted on our network. It's hosted, again, in Microsoft Azure, easy for me to say. And so, I mean, you're getting the best of the best. Now, nothing's foolproof. We've seen large corporations all over the place that have had their systems compromised to invest a lot of dollars into making sure that their networks are safe. But as far as reliability and security, this is as good as it gets. So nothing's foolproof, but the level of security that can be provided by this company is in the database that's hosted by Microsoft is far greater than what we could provide internally.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions for Mr. Duke?
We desperately need to get off of an archaic system that we're maintaining as a single point here, because if we get in trouble, we have no recourse. We have no one available even to come alongside and help us at that point. So, sure.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? At this time, I'm going to seek a motion to authorize city manager to execute the contract and make the purchase for the software.
So,
Moved by Councilman Scrivens. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Branham. Any further discussion? Good. Roll call, please.
Vice President Dean? Aye. Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Urschel?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item, item 7, is an administrative motion authorizing a contract for purchase, installation, and maintenance of electric vehicle chargers in city-owned parking lot from the EV United through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services Cooperative Purchasing Program. This is pursuant to the OEPA's Diesel Mitigation Trust Fund grant. Kind of butchered that, but Mr. City Manager, would you like to explain?
Let's see if we can recover here. On May 27th, council did authorize an agreement with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency to accept a $30,000 grant from the Ohio EPA's Diesel Mitigation Trust Fund for the purchase, installation, and maintenance of 2 dual-port electric vehicle charging stations to be placed in the city-owned municipal parking lot 2, which is located off of 2nd Street, and that is just adjacent to our Main Street commercial corridor. At this time, it is necessary to seek council's approval for contractual services to move forward with the implementation. For this, staff is recommending an award of a contract with EV United, which assisted MBRPC, and the city with the original grant application. The firm has been awarded an Ohio DAS contract for these services, and as a result, competitive bidding is not required for purchases made pursuant to the cooperative purchasing program with DAS. So due to the specialized nature of the equipment services and EV United's familiarity with the region, we are recommending that we move forward with that firm under the ODAS contract as presented, and seek that approval through an administrative motion this evening.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to authorize the contract, please?
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilman Scrivens. At this time, any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this contract? All right, seeing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Vice President Dean? Aye. Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Urschel?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you expect we'll need additional, what's the projection as far as capacity?
I suspect that that is going to depend a lot on federal and state policy and where they go with some of these things. There's obviously a pretty heavy push to move toward electric vehicles, and most of your major manufacturers are definitely migrating in that direction. So we're a little slow to the game here, but this is a good step. Obviously, we wanted to put this at a location where a lot of consumers downtown will be able to use it. I think you probably read in the agenda report as well that there is a charge. This isn't free. There's still a charge. But this is an opportunity for us to make this available at almost no cost to the city. So, yeah, I think we'll evaluate that, and at some point it may be appropriate to consider some expansion in other locations.
All right, thank you very much. Our next item is an administrative motion authorizing the sale of craft beer by the Xenia Area Chamber of Commerce at the 2021 Xenia Oktoberfest in downtown Xenia. Mr. Merriman, would you care to explain this?
Yes, sir, thank you. Pursuant to Xenia Codified Ordinances, Section 1062.21, council at its discretion may authorize entities to serve and/or consume alcohol at events on city property or rights-of-way. Applicants requesting this approval must meet all necessary requirements to obtain the appropriate permit for such alcohol sales from the State of Ohio's Division of Liquor Control. They must also seek endorsement and coordination from the city manager's office. With this in mind, a request has been made by the planners for the Xenia Oktoberfest event to allow for the sale and consumption of alcohol, the craft beers, at an event site which would include public spaces in a section of South Detroit Street. This would be from 2nd Street to 3rd Street, that general vicinity. The event is scheduled tentatively to be held on Saturday, October, I have 9th, but is that right? Right. Saturday, October 9th from noon to 10 p.m. With the intent of providing a unique, high-quality live entertainment experience for local adults and to support our downtown businesses through this effort. We have received proof of insurance, and the city has been properly indemnified. We've reviewed the application and the overall program plan, and my office and the police division are satisfied with what has been presented. So we are recommending this evening that council take an administrative action this evening to authorize this so that the planners can move forward with formally committing to that event in October.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for the city manager? I'm not seeing any questions. At this time, I will ask for a motion to approve the authorization of Xenia Area Chamber of Commerce to sell beer at the Oktoberfest.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Branham. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to add that I'm actually surprised that we didn't get 40-some emails about this, like we did the door. I really hate that this isn't coinciding with our door right now.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. This time I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Dean? Aye. Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Urschel? Aye. Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item is an administration motion approving the schedule of bills in the amount of $991,000. Mr. Duke.
I would just note, this is a little larger scheduled bills. This meeting, the largest expenditures on the scheduled bills are paving of Kinsey and Bellbrook Avenue. So that's why the bills are a little larger than what is typical.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Do we have a second? I'll second that. Seconded by the vice president. Questions, comments, concerns regarding the schedule of bills? No questions? All right, roll call, please.
Vice President Dean? Aye. Councilman Scrivens? Aye. Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Urschel?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Our next item is an added item, item 10, administrative motion on the revised agenda. This is authorizing the purchase of fiber materials from Quantum Network Integrators, LLC. Mr. Duke, I talked to you on the phone about this. You want to care to explain?
Sure. So staff and the contractor that was awarded the bid several years ago for fiber installation connecting many city sites, they are completing and wrapping up the projects that have already been approved by council. I think the last piece is connecting our Ford Road wastewater plant, and I expect that that would be completed here in about a month's time. We are still evaluating what projects we would recommend to bring back to council next, but we have, in conversation with our contractor, come to realize that there is incredible demand on a lot of these supplies for fiber due to a lot of the federal dollars that have been allocated specifically for the purpose of expanding broadband. And so those material prices are starting to climb, and the wait times are becoming astronomical. In fact, our vendor told us that we could wait as long as a year to have those supplies from the time that we order them. Our current contractor, Quantum, does have access to some fiber that's already in the warehouse that he would be willing to commit to us if we would go ahead and commit to purchase that fiber, and at a price that's very competitive, a very good price, really in line with what we've been paying for fiber over the last couple of years, whereas we expect that the price could, triple or even more here in the coming months as demand continues to rise and supply is very limited. And so what we're requesting tonight is permission to purchase 50,000 feet of fiber at a cost of $1.54 per foot, totaling $77,000. So a maximum not to exceed amount of purchase of fiber of $77,000. Now, I believe that that number, as far as availability of that fiber, may have decreased even from earlier this week when we had that conversation. I think most of it's still available, but I don't know that the full 50,000 feet is available. But what we would request is a not to exceed amount, and that way, as fiber would become available, we'd be able to go ahead and lock in the fiber at those lower prices. We're not requesting tonight approval of any project. This is simply to purchase the fiber before we would continue with any other project that hasn't already been approved by council. We'd certainly bring that back for council to consider and ultimately approve. But this would allow us to lock in specific prices on this fiber. And ultimately, if council would decide that they don't want to move forward with a project, we have a high level of confidence that we'd be able to resell the fiber. So that we feel like this is a prudent move to go ahead and move quickly as we have some access to this. And so we're requesting tonight that council go ahead and authorize the purchase of those fiber materials. And then we would expect here within the next couple of months to come back to council and have a more robust conversation on the city's network and potential partnerships and where that network where we would envision that network going in the future.
All right, thank you very much. Would anyone care to make that motion to make the purchase?
So moved.
Moved by the vice president. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. Any further discussion regarding this purchase?
We'd had some discussion a little while back that there was some move in the State House to regulate at the municipal level network access. Do you have a sense of where that legislation is at?
Yeah, so that was a provision in the state biennial budget. As that went through committee, it remained through the final phases, and then on to the governor. It ended up being, I think, maybe even line item vetoed by the governor, which was a very wise move. So I think the takeaways from that are one, there's still interest by someone in Columbus to regulate this and to try to provide control to the large corporations for this type of thing. And second, it might be another reason that we seek to do as much build out as possible for that is regulate it anymore. I think it's worth adding, we are engaged in discussions right now with firms on how we might pursue public-private partnerships to expand access to lower cost, higher speed upload and download, access to broadband services for our residents and our businesses. It's something we've heard a lot from our businesses about, and so there are firms that are beginning to look at our community. So we're excited to see that, and as Brian suggested, I think we'll probably be coming back within the next maybe month or 2 months with some suggestions on how we continue to advance in that cause.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Vice President Dean? Aye. Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Urschel?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is our appointed officials reports. Tonight, I'd like to start with Ms. Fisher, our law director. Thank you.
I just had one thing I wanted to share with council tonight, and I apologize, I have to give you a little background, or this isn't going to make sense. As some of you may know, my significant other and I, we started a coffee roasting business in 2019. 2020 kind of threw our business plan off a little bit, but our ultimate goal is to open a storefront, and we've already looked. Our hope is to open that storefront here in Xenia, in downtown Xenia. To that end, when we do shows or events, we tell people that we are business from Xenia. We have a Xenia P.O. Box mailing address for our business, so that's our goal to get there. And I tell you that because we were doing an event in Greenville, the Annie Oakley Days, and I happened to meet a gentleman named Ron Clark. And when he asked where we were from, and we said Xenia, his father grew up in Xenia. And we had a nice talk about the town. His father was here as a child when the tornado went through. And I received in the mail, Mr. Clark had copies made of the pictures that his father took, the aftermath of the tornado. These pictures were taken about a week after the tornado went through. He wanted to donate these to the city for our archives and for our history. So I wanted to share those with council, and with council's permission, I will send Mr. Clark a thank you note.
Yes.
And I'll pass those up so you can look at them. But I just wanted to give you some background how we came to get these, but they're very interesting. You can tell they were taken with an 1870s camera, but they're copies, and they really show what happened in the city in the 70s.
Thank you.
So it's always nice to get out, and you know, it just always makes me feel so good to meet people, and they recognize us as the city of hospitality. You know, those were almost the first words out of his mouth. He didn't grow up here, never lived here. His father moved away before he was born. But they've been up on occasion, and so that our city has that reputation. And when we're out at these events, meeting people that know that about our city, it's just fantastic. It's great.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions or comments for our law director tonight? All right, Mr. Duke.
I have nothing else to share tonight.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any concerns for the finance director? All right.
Just one thing, Mr. President. We just spent $77,000 on this fiber deal, so I want to see something happen for this $77,000 in the future. I mean, the future is fiber. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. So noted. Any other questions or comments for the finance director? All right, Mr. City Manager.
I'm going to make up for their lack of items, so I'll try to move quickly. Staff has been working, as I had mentioned to council in a couple of prior updates, on a state of our public safety services, and we are projecting right now that we would have some drafts of that available in October. Our intent would be to go back with the preliminary final draft for the Public Safety Committee and review that with the committee, and then publish that with the rest of council, and have any additional follow-up you would like as of probably October or so. And again, we'll be looking at current service delivery, projected service delivery, major concerns, partnership opportunities, a whole host of things to assess the current state, but also to project forward where we think we need to head. With that, one major initiative that I've directed the staff to undertake beginning this late summer, fall, is a comprehensive update of our emergency operations plan. This has not been done in probably 12 to 15 years, somewhere in that range. There are some additional obligations or responsibilities that we have in terms of continuity of operations plans for various parts of our operation, specifically regulations where we're required to have continuity of operations plans for our utilities and look at threats for our primary utilities, water and sewer and so forth. So as part of what we are going to pursue, we will have produced continuity of operations plans for all of our utility functions, our major facilities, information technology, so that we have some fail-safe systems in place in the event of a local disaster or a wide area disaster, that we have contingencies and the ability to either provide alternative measures for consistency of services, or that we can tap into county, state, and federal resources to do that. So again, our staff is required to be NIMS trained. We maintain that. We have a structure that parallels NIMS, but to be honest, we're not where we need to be in terms of having a plan in place with all the attachments and the accessories that make us as prepared as we can be. So look forward to more conversation on that in the public safety report, and as we get toward the end of the year, probably, I think we'll come back to council with some endorsement of that report. Staff, as I have mentioned to council, we have engaged in conversations on several levels to look at additional steps to address homelessness issues in our community, and specifically some of the adverse effects of the behavior of those individuals. I'm hopeful after a conversation next week that I'll be able to share with council some specific actions where we can apply some additional resources to bring more enforcement and accountability on the issue. We continue to get a lot of feedback from business owners, residents, particularly near downtown. And certainly as we're trying to make additional investments in our downtown and create a destination point, we want to make sure that we're not presenting an image that would have an adverse impact on our commercial activities. And so while we want to be sensitive to the needs of homeless individuals that are from or in our community, we are a city of hospitality and will help you if you desire help. If you don't want help, then maybe you should consider moving on. And so we are, again, looking at options to be able to bring more accountability and enforcement there. Also, want to report to council that we have, of course, I think you're aware, completed the clean out of the nuisance abatement project that we had on 2nd Street. We're moving forward with the municipal auction, which will include contents from that, as well as a lot of other stuff that it's time for the city to get rid of. The location of 271 has been sealed up, and again, working with the law director, that will remain sealed for the next year, and then we will determine a way forward from that. Given the success of that initial event with our nuisance abatement pilot project there, it would be my intent to move forward with formalizing and creating a nuisance abatement task force, coordinating our public safety, code enforcement, law department, fire department, so that we are taking every possible mechanism we can within the legal authorities we have to target properties where there is chronic abuse, drug use, and so forth, lack of property maintenance, and begin to systematically attack those. So I think council's given a tacit endorsement of these efforts, given the success to this point. It's a new thing for us and a new thing here being tried in Greene County to use these statutory nuisance abatement authorities. It's time to address some of these long-term, and in some cases long-term, many years, where a lack of property maintenance, drug activity, other criminal activity have plagued neighborhoods. And so our commitment at your direction is that we get aggressive with this and take some action. So we want to be accountable to that, and again, we'll begin to formalize some of that, develop a list of targets of opportunity and see a way forward with that. So also wanted to report, we discussed with the Property Management Committee this evening. We've had very productive conversations with partners, including other municipal leaders in Greene County, as well as county treasurer, county auditor, looking at the delinquent tax situation. We do have many properties in our community and throughout the county that have been long-term tax delinquent properties. There's been a bit of a log jam at the county level, so we've had a very productive conversation on how we partner together with county elected folks as well as other municipalities to develop a process to get that back on track, and again, hold property owners who are not pulling their weight in terms of their tax burden. So look for more on that probably in the next month or so as we seek to build that procedure. Next, we have, getting winded here. We have received our American Rescue Plan Act first tranche of funding, which of course is about half of what the federal government had allotted, but the state has chosen to share those revenues with a bunch of other parties. But we've taken the first tranche. The finance director and myself, our assistants, we have participated in numerous webinars, doing a lot of research to determine, lawfully how can we spend these resources. And so we're reaching, I think, consensus on what we would recommend to council in terms of how we can receipt these funds and how they can be applied, and then in terms of developing a process on how we would identify specific projects and programs. Our intent would be to come back through the Budget and Finance Subcommittee for that initial conversation, and make sure that we're sort of testing the waters with that group, and then coming back and developing a conversational process with council to determine how you want to move forward. We have, was it 1.8 million this first tranche?
1.1.
1.1, yeah, and we're scheduled for about is it 2.3 total?
Yeah.
Which again is significantly less than we first thought, but it's still an opportunity to be able to infuse some resources for projects. So look for more conversation on that coming very soon. And then finally, our first neighborhood night out is of course next Tuesday, August 31st from 5 to 7 p.m. This will be at Sterling Green Park. I'm sincerely requesting, council, if you can be there, please be there, engage with those residents. That's a growing neighborhood. Lots of folks who've made investments by joining our community use that park. So encourage you. It's an opportunity to connect with folks. We'll have a sizable contingent from Xenia Public Safety out there to build bridges with the local community, looking to recruit folks to be a part of our public safety employee services, and again, just an opportunity to build community, connect with folks. In September, and we'll share the details later, we have made the determination to do a neighborhood night out at Lexington Park to facilitate some of the follow-up conversation with some of the issues that we've experienced and concerns that have been raised as a result of incidents there this summer. So again, we'll look for some unique ways to try to really encourage conversation with residents when we have that opportunity. So please put those dates on your calendar, and if at all possible, please, I would ask council, join our staff members as we go out to engage with the community for those events. So I think that's all I have this evening.
All right. When is that, what's the time frame for that neighborhood night out?
5 to 7, correct? Looking at anybody now that's helping get it. I think it's 5 to 7, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for our city manager tonight?
Just one, Mr. President.
Yes.
What day did you say the neighborhood night out for Lexington Park would be?
For Lexington Park, it is September,
28 is the Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday,
yeah,
28th.
correct. It is, it's
I thought that
Tuesday.
was Sterling Green.
That's this Tuesday.
August 31st, Tuesday, August 31st.
That's
is
Sterling Green, and the 28th is Spring Hill.
September, yeah, so we're shifting from Spring Hill
to
to
Lexington.
Lexington, and then we'll do Spring Hill in the spring.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Thank you,
other
Mr.
questions?
President.
You're welcome. All right, moving on to reports of boards, commissions, and committees. Our item listed tonight is Board of Zoning Appeals, scheduled for August 23rd. Mayor Mays.
Thank you, sir. We did meet on the 23rd and who heard 2 variance requests, one for a 12-foot by 16-foot shed on 224 Country Club Drive, and that had to do with it was a setback and the way the house is shaped, so that was approved. And then there was another variance request for a 24 by 54 above-ground pool to be built in the front yard at 130 Massey Drive, and that was approved. If you know that address, it's not a pool in a front yard like you may think. There's a house on Massey Drive has massive space and is surrounded by trees, and so the way the house actually faces Kyle Moore, so it's not. We did not approve somebody to put a pool in the front yard on a neighborhood street that you might think. So, but that was approved. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone have anything regarding Board of Zoning Appeals for the mayor? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to council comments. I'll start on my left with Councilwoman Rebecca Dean.
I don't have anything tonight.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, Mr. President. Got a few calls last Friday evening after the Xenia football game regarding towing out of the parking lot there at the strip center. Now, we know that strip center is on its last leg, and there's just a few entities that's still trying to engage in interstate commerce there. But the football game starts at 7 p.m. and had cars towed out of the parking lot over there. We've been parking that parking lot since Moby Dick was a guppy. And now all of a sudden, there's a violation to park there going to a Xenia football game. That's outrageous. So just wanted to let everybody know that all the Xenia fans who were sitting in the stands who heard that announcement felt like they had a slap in the face. And we just want to let you know we didn't appreciate it, and we just won't stand for it. We'll go park there again this Friday because we're going to beat Troy this Friday. So just wanted to say that. I have to express condolences to the family of Edith Skinner. She went to her final reward this week. And then unexpectedly, Mr. Furman E. Brown, we call him Chubby, lives on East 3rd Street. He got his reward, his crime this week. Miss Cora Stevens, and one of my classmates, Mr. Richard Scott. He had a heart attack, fatal heart attack. So we want to wish all of those illustrious Xenians a bon voyage and a job well done here, uplifting the rest of us who are still here. I see work has begun in the J.T. Henry Circle. We're going to have a monument there to the first African-American mayor who served here for 28 years. I think that's very apropos. And I'd like to publicly thank former Councilman Dale Lauterbach for his leadership on that issue. And he had taken that, and he was strategic in making that happen. And we want to say thank you, sir, for a job well done. And once we have a ceremony, I want you to be there too. So please, we want you to know that we appreciate your efforts. I want to congratulate our new Xenia football head coach, Maurice Harden. He's also an instructor over at the Career Center. I had the good pleasure of meeting him a couple of years ago when I was first appointed to this council. And I got appointed to serve on a committee that he had at the Career Center Science Advisory Board. So I had a chance to run into him after the football game there last week, and we reacquainted ourselves. So Xenia football team is 1-0, headed for a 10-0 season. Xenia is currently ranked 308th in the state, behind Fairborn and Troy. So we're going to take care of those numbers here. And just finally, Mr. President, if you travel in downtown Xenia and its environs, you come up against an esplanade every now and then, like say at the intersection of West Main and Allison, or North Detroit at Ankeny Mill, or in front of the Chamber of Commerce. And if you notice, the weeds are enforceable. And it's just ridiculous that we can't get a city employee out there with a string trimmer and knock that stuff down. When you go around to other cities and you come back here, you want to put one right across somebody's soup coolers because this place looks terrible. We don't have enough pride in where we live. This is our part of the world that the Lord has given us, and we don't take pride in it. Right out here in front of the building across the street, you can't get into the storm drain because of the weeds. It's ridiculous. Now, hopefully we won't be like Humphrey County, Tennessee, and have a flood and can't drain our water off because our storm drains are filled up. It's just ridiculous. I'm just not impressed. So, Mr. President, thank you, sir. Thank you for allowing me to be on the soapbox this evening.
All right, thank you, Councilman Scrivens. Councilman Brano.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple comments tonight. I heard from the grapevine that Xenia Community Schools is actually requiring masks starting on Monday. I just want to say that I actually was hoping that Xenia Community Schools would stand strong and that they would make that optional and up to the parents to provide that choice for an individual to wear a mask or not wear a mask. I just want to say that that should be a personal choice. Same with vaccines. That should be a personal choice up to that individual as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Urschel.
Yeah, a couple items. So one of the things I've been attempting to do is to help build a relationship with the school, and so I'm running school board meetings, also meeting with the administrative staff. Tommy, I stopped by today and talked to the folks over at the school about the parking incident, and did a little bit of research as well too. So whether people have been parking there for a long term or not, it's a private lot. And I think for some people have thought that the city had purchased that and it was city property. So just so everybody knows, that's not city property, that's private property. The private property owner has the right to allow people to park or not to park. And the Ohio Revised Code says that if he decides that he wants to tow from there, he has to provide signage. And I went by today and he has provided the signage that's consistent with the code. So he has the right to request the private towing company, which is posted there, to tow anyone who is in violation of that. Now, having said that, as I talked to the folks at the school, they said they typically had some contact, principally with Goodwill Industries, because they're the principal user at this time. And they've got some new folks on their staff and have got a new manager at the store, and that didn't happen before last Friday. So they said that they are going to be reaching out to the store owner, and some of their senior administrative staff is going to be there Friday night as well, just to monitor the situation. I think there's also some concern that folks were parking such that they couldn't get, you couldn't get good access to actually move the parking lot. And even though the store may not be open later, Goodwill Industries does take deliveries of items off the loading docks and stuff there later in the evening, and some of those access points were blocked off too for people that were parking. But I think the school's looking for goodwill for that, and I offered that if there's something we could do from a city perspective to be part of that conversation, we'd do that as well. But my sense is that's going to be resolved here. And just so everybody knows too, the school is also has a contract with a couple of senior police officers to not only be there, but they also have access to do some traffic control if it's necessary there for the access out of the parking lot. So I'm planning on going there Friday night too, to just kind of monitor that situation, see if there's anything else we need to do from a city perspective. We've had a comment, I think our last council meeting, about concerns about our potential developments and the size of square footage of housing there. And one of the comments that came out, and I kind of picked up on this because it was in the context of the school, was that there was a certain size of square feet that was required to support the school district. So I went back and talked to Carolyn Huber, who's the treasurer for the school, and I asked, is there some sort of standard allotment to this or requirement or numbers? And she said no, not that she's aware of. So what we did was we put together a scenario, because I was curious too. I didn't know one way or the other. I wanted to understand this. So we took a scenario where we had 50 acres of agricultural land, and we have a couple of those locations in the city right now. And we assumed there's no household or children on that land, and we took a look at what was the income to the school from that land, which comes both from property tax as well as school income tax. And the methodology for both of those things, I can only use the word Byzantine to describe that, but it's very complicated. But I checked all these with Carolyn, and and I also mentioned that the school has an outstanding treasurer, on the order of Ryan, that just really understands the intricacies of the funding, and she puts the 5-year forecast together for the school and those kind of things. So, but just to let folks know that you might think a good chunk of land like that provides a lot of income to the school. The reality is it's about $448 a year of income that goes to the school from that land. Now that's profit to the school, because there's no burden of any children being educated off of that property. And then I took a look at a scenario. So once again, this is scenario based. But I said, what if we had a new subdivision that was being put in there with 160 1,400 square foot homes, which would be the minimum size that we could have. And then we used an estimate for the number of children. There'd be 80 children in the subdivision, 60 out of that would be attending the school district. There'd be a number that wouldn't be a school age. And we used the percentages that do not attend the public schools, that go into out of district or parochial schools or those kind of things. So I went over those numbers with Carolyn to make sure that was consistent. We took a look at an equivalent house, and I also met with David Graham, our county auditor, to understand how we do the taxes and the millage on new developments, as well as I selected a value for that, and for an equivalent house that had just been built over in Sterling Green, and he said that was probably about the best we could do in terms of a current number that came off the backside of King Street off of there. It was equivalent size home. So if you look at those values and you crank all the numbers through, what you basically come up to is that the total school income off of that property would be roughly $370,000, both from income taxes as well as property taxes. And we use income taxes for the minimum income required to actually get a mortgage on that size of the home. So that's how we came up with that. Now, there's a burden to the school district to educate those 60 children. And the local burden on property tax and income tax per child currently is a little bit over $6,000. That's the local share from there. Now, there's about 8 other sources of income in addition to that. And I didn't add any of those because Carolyn said those are coming from other sources and are matched by the number of students. So they're not coming from the local economy. But if you subtract, that basically says there's expense to the school of $362,000 to educate those children. So if you subtract that out and you subtract the baseline number, the 448, that basically comes back and says that the school will be receiving an additional roughly $8,000 of income after it is paid for the students as well. Now, once again, this is a scenario, and it's got about 15 different components to it, and I feel for Carolyn. You also need to know that the Ohio legislature has modified the funding formulas and methodology, and that's all changing here in October as well too. And so she's going to be keeping us up to date with that. But I do want to let you know we take comments like that seriously, and I believe, and I got concurrence from both David as well as Carol in terms of the methodology and how we did this, that if we got, and I would assume that size of housing would be the minimum that we would do, and that income that I picked would be about the minimum we would have to be able to support that type of housing. But that is not providing a burden to the schools. Now, I'm not saying that we want that for a whole spectrum of other reasons, but I don't believe that's doing that burden at school. I wanted to get back with the school on that, because if it was, that's something I think we need to factor in as well. The other comment that I had is I've been taking the comments on the rights of municipal employees from a residency perspective pretty seriously, and I'm trying to do a lot of research on that as well too. And so this is just we've had our law director has given us some feedback on that in council, which is appropriate because that's her responsibility to us as the council. But I just want to step back and make a few other comments on this as well. So in the Ohio Constitution, in Article 1, Section 1, there's a Bill of Rights, and we're all kind of familiar with our Bill of Rights that we have from the U.S. Constitution. But we also have a Bill of Rights in the Ohio State Constitution as well. And that says, all men are by nature free and independent and have certain inalienable rights, among which are those of enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and seeking and obtaining happiness and safety. So it doesn't enumerate all of them, but it enumerates a few. It also says in Article 2 that the legislative power of the state is vested in the General Assembly and then Article 2, Section 34 says that laws may be passed fixing, regulating hours of labor, establishing a minimum wage, and the key component there says providing for the comfort, health, safety, and general welfare of all employees. And when it uses that term, all employees, that is all employees. And there's no differentiation within the Ohio Constitution or the Ohio Code between appointed appointees, whether we have hourly, whether we have somebody who's represented by a union or not represented by a union. Everyone who is employed by us is covered by that all-employee term. And there's been plenty of precedents that regulates to that. So the interesting thing there, too, is in that first part of the Ohio Constitution, it uses that word inalienable rights. And we don't usually refer to that much. So what is an inalienable right? Well, Merriam-Webster says an inalienable right is something that is impossible to take away or to give up. So it's not to be bartered at that point. An inalienable right is something that someone possesses. And this next quote that I have here is from Richard Fulton of the Freedom Forum Institute. So there's 100 definitions of that. I just picked one, but this one resonated with me. It says, an inalienable right is a right that can't be restrained or repealed by human laws. Sometimes called natural rights, inalienable rights flow from our nature as free people. While there are important rights held by Americans and other citizens of democracies around the world that are not considered inalienable, the most important are inalienable because they cannot be given or taken away by a government. Instead, it is a government's job to protect inalienable rights. So one of our responsibilities as government, whether at the state level, the federal, and municipal level, is we're there to ensure that folks' inalienable rights are being protected and preserved, not to take those away from them. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is that when the residency rights were provided in the Ohio Revised Code in Section 9481 back in 2006, the law directors provided us a copy of that. We've all seen that. But you need to know that in addition to what is in the law, the legislature also has additional sections that they include to those to help understand what their intent was. And the courts go back to those sections because a lot of folks like to decide, well, I think this is what the law means. I think that's, and so the courts need to also go back and understand the intent that was provided by the legislature. And I just want to read that to you because a lot of times people don't go back and actually look at the bill and understand what came with the intent. So this is their summary. It says the General Assembly finds that enacting Section 9481 of the Revised Code in this Act, it is a matter of statewide concern to generally allow the employees of Ohio's political subdivisions, of which we are some, to choose where to live, and that it is necessary to generally prohibit, that's us, okay, who are they prohibiting? They're prohibiting us, political subdivisions, from requiring their employees as a condition of employment to reside in any specific area of the state in order to provide for the comfort, health, safety, and general welfare of those public employees. So once again, they refer back to that part of the Constitution that says that's their job as a legislature, to address that. And this is what they also said there too. They said in enacting Section 9481 of the Revised Code of the General Assembly has also declared in Section 2 of this bill its intent to recognize the following. And this is interesting. It goes back to the Bill of Rights there. It says the inalienable and fundamental right of an individual to choose where to live pursuant to Section 1, Article 1 of the Ohio Constitution. So basically the legislature is saying we now have placed through this bill the right to choose where to live is an inalienable right within the framework of Ohio law. And it's right there with the other ones that are listed there, that we have those rights of enjoying, defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and seeking other things. And they also said in this too, they said Section 34 of Article 2 of the Ohio Constitution specifies that laws may be passed providing for the comfort, health, safety, and general welfare of all employees, and that no other provisions of the Ohio Constitution impairs or limits this power, including Section 3 of Article 8 Ohio Constitution, which is the home rule section as well too. So,
Article 18.
I'm sorry, I correct. Yeah, I stand corrected. Thank you. Yep. So this has stood the test of time with the courts. It had the major court challenges by municipalities back in 2009 from a home rule perspective. It's also been challenged in the context of municipalities have tried to do this through contracts with individuals. They've tried to do this with incentives with individuals. There's even been times where municipalities in Cincinnati have said, hey, we want to have at least the requirement that they live in the state. And they've been told by the Supreme Court that no, if you're a municipal employee, they can live in Kentucky and they can work in your municipality because it's their inalienable right to choose where to live. There's some limitations on this. The limitations are if you're a volunteer. So that's how we, on our boards and commissions, we can request that they have residency. All of us that are elected officials in ORC Section 315 are required to live within the municipality, so we don't have that right. And they also talk about the fact that those that are there in terms of first responders for emergencies or disasters, we can require them to live in the county or the adjacent county. And we do require that. We do have that requirement on our first responders in terms of that regional requirement. So we are operating within the context of that. And we do have residency requirements on our volunteers for our boards and commissions as well too. So we execute that. But I will say that we also have another responsibility here as elected officials, and that is we have a responsibility to uphold the law. Now, we may not like it, we may not agree with it, we may have a personal preference within the context of that, But I want to read you ORC Section 307, which is misconduct in office. It says, any person holding office in this state or in any municipal corporation, county, or subdivision thereof, who willfully and flagrantly exercises authority or power not authorized by law, or refuses or willfully neglects to enforce the law or to perform any official duty imposed on him by law, okay, is guilty of gross negligence of duty. Gross, okay, and it basically says, is guilty of misconduct in office. Upon complaint and hearing in the manner provided for in sections 307 and 310 inclusive of the revised code, such person shall have judgment of forfeiture of said office with all its emoluments entered thereon against him, creating therefore in said office a vacancy to be filled as prescribed by law. So part of our responsibility within Ohio law is that we uphold the law. Now, once again, I'm not saying it's good law or bad law, but if we don't agree with this law, there's a provision for us to change that law. And we can go to our representatives, both at the State House, at both houses, and we can ask them, say, hey, we think this is a terrible law, and we'd like you guys to change that, and you know what? They can, but there's a process to do that. The process to do that is not through the municipality, okay? It's settled law, and there's been multiple municipalities that have attempted to get around this, and every time they've been taken to court, they've been told, no, this is an inalienable right of the employees. And so I'd just like to look to our appointed officials here, let you know that this is settled law within the state, that you folks have an inalienable right to live wherever you want to live. Okay? That's your right. And I just would look to our council saying, our responsibility is to protect that right and not to infringe on that right. And that's not just a personal responsibility, that's our responsibility by the law. And if we do not do that, then we should be removed from office if we're not upholding the law, okay? And I know there have been some comments of folks saying that anybody on the council who is in favor of not restraining those rights shouldn't be running for council or shouldn't be on the council. I'm just telling you the law says the exact opposite. The law says we are here to uphold the law, okay? So, and I just would also say that I spent 34 years with the federal government, some time in industry before that, and I've been a part of some pretty amazing things that got done in spite of all odds from a technical perspective and other things. Okay, so I'm involved in most of the stealth fighter developments in the Air Force, and I work with some pretty high-powered teams of folks during that time. And I'll tell you, our appointed officials are some of the greatest people I've had the pleasure to work with during my time over the last 30 years, okay, 30 plus years. And you guys are professional. You work diligently to respond to any questions that we have. You take very seriously your responsibilities, and you have the best interests of our city at hand. And so I just want to tell you personally, thank you for that. And I want you to enjoy the rights that you have personally. I've lived in Xenia the whole time I've been in the state of Ohio. I plan to live here for the rest of my time. I could live pretty much anywhere I want to, but I'm choosing to live here. I would encourage you to live here. And some of you do, some of you don't, because I think it's a great place to live. But I also, as your employer on the council, and also as your official here in the municipality, letting you know that this is your right, and it's our responsibility to protect your rights and have you operate within the context of that. So that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Mayor Mays.
A couple things from my calendar over the last couple of weeks. On the 15th, was honored to be invited out to Wilberforce University to participate in a ribbon cutting. They've been working with the township and the trustees and Mr. Stock and providing a sidewalk that connects Wilberforce to Central State. There's been a path there for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid, but now there's an official sidewalk with a crosswalk, and so it was a nice ceremony with Dr. Pickard, their president. Let me see. That same day, in the evening, the Greene County Council on Aging had their Jam Fest, their Senior Palooza. They do an auction, they do a lot of fun games, they do a cloud race, in which I lost again, but all the local mayors lost, so I feel okay about that. Karen Peterball, I just want to mention her personally. She did a great job planning the event, raised some great money for the Council on Aging. I know I've said this before, but they have helped my family with my parents personally, and I'm just very appreciative for the work that they've done. On Friday the 20th, there was a Mr. Brodsky, and I know Mr. Merriman presented again to some people from Little Forest as well. They came out to learn some more about the city, and Mr. Brodsky actually provided a tour for a lot of our industries, and just working on some ways they can partner together to whether it's helping our local businesses or working with students, finding some internships, and I'm just very appreciative of the time that they spent together. As Mr. Scrivens has mentioned, that was the same day, that Friday evening, the Battle of the Backyard. I was very happy to be able to present that trophy to our football team and to keep that trophy here in Xenia, so that was a lot of fun to be a part of that at the end of the game. On Monday, the 23rd, I had an opportunity to host a mayor's lunch here in Xenia at one of our restaurants, and it went really well. We had a really nice time, and just thankful for that. I wanted to mention Mr. Farrell, who brought in the signs of the Purple Heart for the Purple Heart parking, and just really appreciate him. We've been in contact off and on for a little while, and he actually has already texted and just said how much he appreciates the city's support. He's very overwhelmed by the support, and Personally, I dropped the ball a little. I should have presented that a few months ago, but he is so gracious to come here and to do that, so I just really appreciate what he's done. I wanted to give condolences to the family of Tayon Howe, and I know that is my niece and her friend group that has really affected them. There's been a lot of kids from their friend group over the last 2 years that have passed away, and it has been very tragic and very hard. With that said, I also just want to acknowledge the loss of life today, the loss of life over the last month. One of the things that I have appreciated this week, as a person of faith, somebody shared a prayer with me. I know we're going to do this at church on Sunday, just a prayer of lament. I want to read just one part of that because I think it's so important that we give ourselves a moment to grieve. And oftentimes when we just rush past the horrendous things that are happening around us and we don't process some of those emotions, it comes out sideways. I think it's coming out in a lot of anger. I think that you see a lot of anger around us right now. So let me just read this, please. Be present in the midst of this far-reaching pain, of life lost and flourishing diminished. Move our hearts to compassion rather than commentary, as we lament the loss of image bearers who leave gaping holes in homes, friendships, and neighborhoods. Be merciful, God, to those now wounded. So I would just encourage you in your own homes, in your personal life, to give yourself a time to grieve, and a time to be sorrowful. And I hope for those people of faith that you are taking time to pray and be fervent on your knees. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mayor Mays. Vice President Dean.
Thank you. I don't have anything else to add tonight.
All right, thank you, Vice President Dean. I'd like to thank Mr. Farrell as well. Also like to thank those that spoke tonight, Mr. Sizemore, Mr. Kell, on your comments. Sir, in the back room, I did not get your name, so I apologize. Okay, so, I appreciate your presence tonight and your words that you spoke. As you can see, we're all very invested in our community, as well as you are. I can't speak on the incident because I wasn't there. The only thing I know of is what was reported to me by our police department, which I would wholeheartedly say, I think we have some of the finest men and women in uniform in our community trying to keep our citizens safe. And as a council, collectively, I don't think anything's more important than public safety from those individuals. So, and I understand your concerns, and I would be too. I would be angry if it was racial profiling. I do know the gentleman that came to the meeting had an opportunity to speak with Captain Lane, and I believe that those differences have been worked out, and they have come to some kind of conclusion. I don't feel that one incident really defines Xenia as a community, because I still feel that we are a community of hospitality, and I will stand by that. But again, thank you very much for being here. And again, if you'd like to meet with me after the meeting, I'm more than happy. We are going to take just a short, less than 5-minute recess. We have a work session scheduled. I'd like to start that right at 7:30. So if you need a quick bathroom break, folks, please do so at this time. However, after we come back, the work session will not be televised, but it will be a presentation by the Dillon Corporation and a summary of public engagement findings by the CIC committee. So at this time, we will take a short recess and we will come right back. Thank you very much.